I'm going to clean the knife up. I got that heat treat discoloration off there. And I'm going to give it one more hand sanding at 600 grit with the wet and dry. And then we're done with metal finish aside from bluing. And I've been working on the little pattern for the scales. And it's finished as far as each end goes. It's right where I want it to be. And of course, those ends have to be finished before we glue anything on here. So now I'm ready to take this aluminum pattern, clamp it, transfer the outline, and get this stuff rough sawn out and get it finished right at these two lines. And then I can locate. And the way I do that is I just pull this off to the edge of the table. I get it lined up exactly where I want it to go. Then I take a vice grip and I clamp it on there. And then I will go over to the drill press, invert it, and drill through. And then I'll take the other one and overlay that, flip it back over, and drill through all three, and that really sets the scales right where I want them. And then the end's going to be finished before they go on to the polish stage. And then the edges, they're going to hang out a little bit, and they don't get finished down until everything gets finished. And it'll all be done just as all three pieces. So everything is flush. Very close to being done with this knife, aside from the bluing. And this bluing process happens quickly. You just make sure the metal is all clean, and then you just apply it with a cotton dauber till it's to the point you want. There are easy to follow instructions on here. You leave it on for just a little bit of time. You stop that reaction. Look at what you have, repeat, and you can repeat as many times as you need to get the depth of blue that you're going to be happy with. This is an incredibly easy product to use. So we're going to be getting on with this. I'll come back when it's well, just about time to glue these things on. We'll be finishing the knife later today. Alright, I'm getting ready to cut my carbon fiber pins. They need to be about 1 inch long. So if you've never messed with this stuff, it can be, well, it's different. You can't cut it with a tubing cutter. It's very hard. If you try to use it like a coping saw, it tends to splinter and it'll dull the saw. So the best way is with one of these. And as you're going to see, it kicks up quite a little cloud of dust. And that dust is abrasive. So two things you need to do this. You need these, and you need one of these. I only have one of these. Don't tell anybody. So I'm going to get this on. And these safety glasses go over my regular glasses pretty well. Alright, so I've marked every inch on this tape, and the tape just helps me, because they'll go flying if you don't have them secured down. And it also helps to keep the ends from splintering so bad. Yeah. So there you go. And that's how to keep everything contained and neat when you're dealing with this stuff. It's strong stuff, but it can be a challenge to work with in the shop. Alright, I have scored each side of the tang here with some 100 grit sandpaper and cleaned it with lacquer thinner. I've cleaned the scales with lacquer thinner and the pins and my hands. So now we're just going to apply
this and then push it down into your holes. You can wipe off any excess, so don't worry about using too much. Alright, so I'm going to roll this pin in some epoxy and get it started through. This will be our first little reference locator pin, and there it goes. So we're going to get a couple of them down through. We're going to turn the knife over. We're going to prep this other side. Now don't scrimp on this stuff. You need enough to get full coverage. I'm filling these weight loss holes with this stuff. Just one more area it can contact. Alright. Start putting the pins through. And honestly, don't worry about getting this stuff on your hands. You can clean your hands after you're done. And if you're worried about getting it on your workbench, you might as well stop. In fact, let's go ahead and take epoxy and smear it on your workbench before you even start, because it's going to get there. But anyway, I'm just cleaning off the excess now. And the scales are thick and blocky, and the knife is about as ugly as it's ever going to be. But that all changes just as soon as we start taking the handles down to finish. So that's all. I'll check in about 5 more minutes just to see if any extra has oozed out that I need to wipe away. Other than that, time is doing the job now. So I'll show you what this looks like when we got the clamps off and we're starting to rough these handles down. And handle's going to lose a little more than half of its thickness on each side. So these scales are really going to thin down nicely, because they're way out of proportion to the rest of the knife. But it's the only thickness micarta I can get my hands on. Alright, so that's it. I'm going to leave it like that. Clean up everything. And I'll come back when there's something more to show you. Alright, the epoxy is cured, and I've just knocked down the excess, basically, and leaves me with pretty thick scales. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but I have struck some lines, and I'm taking it down to that thickness before I start any contouring. But this is dusty work, so with this micarta, anything that creates a lot of airborne dust, put something like this on. And I'll show this to you when I've got it down closer to what it's going to finish out to be. Okay, I've got the handle really slimmed down, just about to where it's going to be when it's final finish, and it's almost there. I'm not going to do a whole lot of contouring in this handle. I am going to round out the corners in this radius and back along here, and just gently around all the sharp corners. And I wanted a minimal handle on this knife, just something to get your hand around. And then as far as the micarta goes, it has that great property that even if your fingers are a little bit wet, it's going to grip. So just about there with that. Now this is a 500 grit hand sand, and I'm probably going to go up to about an 800 grit on this. And then after it is buffed, you can see that it really darkens up, like I did this side, and I just did this to show you. If you can imagine that with the bluing, it's really going to mute this knife out nicely. And those carbon pins just kind of disappear in the handle. You really can't see them. I think this is going to be a nice subdued knife that's going to be useful. So I will come back. This video here is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to get as much as I've got now uploaded, and then we'll come back for the finished knife, and then of course making the sheath, which I have to put some thought into the sheath because I wanted to do a few different things. But yeah, I like the way it's turning out. I hope you do too, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.